The inaugural Aquarian Consult Afro-Caribbean Investment Summit that held earlier this year, it marked a significant milestone in strengthening economic ties between Africa and the Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean investment, and joining both continents at this time. Let's explore more about this event with Sermon Uba, who's the Chief of Staff at Aquarian Consult Limited. Great to have you on the show. Fantastic. It's great to have you. So, talk to me about the AACIS, 2025.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. Great to have you. Why did the Aquarian Consult, decide to, organize this event?
Okay, so the AACIS is short for the Aquarian Consult Afro-Caribbean Investment Summit. And Aquarian, it's a program that was organized, like you rightfully said, by Aquarian Consult. And we decided to do this because, we've been in business development consultancy for over 16 years, right? And when you've been in the field that long, you just grow to appreciate just how authentic, how original Nigerian and African businesses at large are. And so we thought that, these businesses deserve a platform where they can engage in meaningful international dialogue and forge partnerships and collaborations to be able to drive sustainable development and economic growth. And so this was, a perfect way to just sort of create that platform to foster these things. So that's how AACIS was curated.
All right, fantastic. I know we're having a little internet glitch there, but what were some of the big wins or highlights, from the summit?
Oh, we had a lot of big wins and highlights. I think it's noteworthy to mention that we had a full delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis was here, as St. Kitts and Nevis was the focus country for the 2025 AACIS. So the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis was here with a full delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis. And we also had some other strong and distinguished speakers and guests, including the former President of Mauritius, Her Excellency Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, the President of Afrexim Bank, Dr. Benedict Arama, and, a host of other ambassadors from African countries. We also had the government officials represented. We had the private sector also adequately represented, because what we're trying to say is we can't leave this conversation to governments alone, right? The private sector has a very important part to play in advancing our objective of building this transatlantic bridge between Africa and the Caribbean. And so that was a huge win. I think also we had MOUs that were signed between Caribbean and Nigerian partners in several sectors, including agriculture and creative economy. So a lot of momentum was built during the AACIS 25 summit. So, amongst a lot of wins, these are a few. There also was a massive interest in attending the St. Kitts and Nevis Investment Gateway Summit coming up at the end of the month. So that was also a huge win, because it shows that the conversations that were had and the partnerships that were built during the conference are partnerships and conversations that, small businesses, agripreneurs, entrepreneurs, business leaders, investors all want to continue to carry on. So that was, another win for us.
Yeah, so much conversation right now about, public-private partnership, getting that handshake. But which areas did the summit focus on, and why were those areas important?
Okay, so the summit focused on various areas. The AACIS is a platform, like I said, to connect small businesses with opportunities, basically. And what we did was we focused on St. Kitts and Nevis as the focus country for 2025. Every year, the AACIS will focus on, a different Caribbean or African country and delve into the investment opportunities in that country. So the AACIS is not targeting certain industries. The AACIS is targeting businesses and opportunities and how we can bring them together. So with St. Kitts and Nevis, what we did was we focused on industries that St. Kitts and Nevis is focusing on pushing as the investment opportunities that are coming out of St. Kitts and Nevis. But it's also important to note that this is not a Nigeria St. Kitts and Nevis thing, right? It's an Afro-Caribbean thing. So it's African, intra-African, and then also connecting Africa with the Caribbean. So every year, we would look at different countries and pick investment opportunities from those countries to focus on. So It was important that we picked, St. Kitts and Nevis is trying to become a sustainable island state. They announced this a few years ago, and so they have what they have now coined the 7-point agenda to be able to achieve this. And in that 7-point agenda, there's food security, there's creative economy, there's green energy, amongst others. And so these are some of the industries that we focused on for the summit. And we would be doing this on an annual basis moving forward, depending on what country is the country of focus.
Right, and most of these events, when we have these events, most of the time you like to try and gauge the impact, so far. So what has happened since, the summit? Any follow-up activities or results?
My goodness, so much has happened after the summit, and if I had to go through everything, I wouldn't be able to within the time that we have. However, one of the most important things is, like I said, during the summit, we had a massive interest in the delegation that was in attendance in attending the St. Kitts and Nevis Investment Gateway Summit. And so one of the biggest follow-ups is that we are taking a delegation from Nigeria to St. Kitts and Nevis for that summit. And alongside the summit, we're also going to be having some other bilateral engagements in various industries such as agriculture, creative economy, sports, just to create that connection and have that exchange happen. And so from the 29th of May to the 3rd of June, we will be taking a delegation on a charter flight that will go directly from Nigeria to St. Kitts and Nevis to attend these events. And we are taking, we are opening this up to small businesses, to agripreneurs, we're opening this up to investors, to business leaders, the people who are actually interested in these investment opportunities. It's important that we focus on the businesses because we want to connect them to, export opportunities, to Caribbean stakeholders who would be interested in probably funding, to give them market access. So these are just some of the things that, we have worked on and that we are pushing as a result of the summit. And we hope that we'll carry on and hope that these small businesses will also get the exposure that they need to hopefully start to earn, Forex as well, or
right.
foreign currency.
Yeah, we all love our foreign currency. Most of these countries, we just want to earn more of that. So tell us about the upcoming trip to, St. Kitts and Nevis. What's the goal there?
Okay, so like I just mentioned, it is the St. Kitts and Nevis Investment Gateway Summit will be taking place from the 31st to the 3rd of June, 31st of May, pardon me, to the 3rd of June 2025. And so Aquarian Consult is organizing a charter that will go directly from Nigeria to St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, if you know anything about getting to St. Kitts and Nevis, it's a bit of a headache, right? Because you can't get straight to St. Kitts and Nevis from Nigeria. You either have to go through Europe or you have to go through America. And St. Kitts and Nevis in itself is visa-free to Nigerians. However, getting there could be a bit of a hassle, right? So Aquarian Consult is stepping in and we're saying, okay, you know what? There's so much interest in businesses, in business leaders, investors, in all these people to actually attend this summit. So let's see how we can facilitate that and how we can make that easier. So we've chartered a flight that will take a delegation from Nigeria to St. Kitts and Nevis directly and bring them back directly. So there's going to be no hassle to be able to do that. And so small businesses who are interested, can reach out to us, connect with us. Terms and conditions definitely apply, but businesses, agripreneurs, business leaders, anyone who has a solid interest, in the summit and in some bilateral engagements that will also be happening alongside the summit, can reach out to us and we can give them more information on that.
Right, and how are these businesses and some of these creatives, how are they benefiting from all this?
This is actually a great question. Like in the previous segment, when we were talking with Mr. Wole Adeosun, he was talking about the industries that are getting the highest investments now. He spoke about agriculture, spoke about tourism, spoke about the creative industry, and so worldwide, these are industries that are getting, a lot of investments or investment opportunities. And these are some of the industries too that St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean is focusing on when it comes to investment opportunities. And so what we are doing basically is giving businesses, small, medium and large businesses, actually, not even just small businesses. We're giving businesses an opportunity to be able to go to St. Kitts and Nevis, to network, to be able to build partnerships and collaborations with stakeholders in St. Kitts and Nevis, where they can, explore export opportunities, they can explore distribution opportunities. They can explore market access, explore funding opportunities. There's so much to gain from attending the summit and the associated bilateral engagements. So it's a very great opportunity for businesses, for creatives. You know, what we're trying to do at Aquarian Consult is to build a transatlantic bridge, right, to connect Africa and the Caribbean so that we can redefine the Middle Passage and the narrative, the negative narrative that the Middle Passage has been plagued by over the years. So we want to redefine that. We want to make that a more positive story and change that narrative, right, to something that's better, something that's sustainable, something that our future generations can carry along as something of pride rather than something, you know, of shame. So in building this transatlantic bridge, we have to connect Africa and the Caribbean. So that's what we're trying to do, to connect these businesses with opportunities, to bring the two regions together and see how we can further trade and investment initiatives, trade, investment, creative economy in several different areas. So there's so much to gain with creatives, with agriculture business owners, small business owners, medium business owners. There's so much to gain from being in attendance at the summit.
Right, and I'm up for, you know, changing negative narratives, you know, about Africa and most of our countries within Africa. So what's next for Aquarian Consult, you know, after AACIS 25?
We keep with the momentum. Like I said, you know, the summit really built great momentum because prior to the summit, you know, if you ask people if they knew about St. Kitts and Nevis, they probably didn't, right? And now we have created such awareness. The conversations have started. We've started the connection, you know, and we've taken a great stride in actually connecting the two regions by making this charter flights available for people who would like to, you know, explore the opportunities available in the Caribbean. So that is what we're trying to do, and we want to keep the momentum going. It's not about AACIS 25. It's about, you know, building this transatlantic bridge. So there's going to be AACIS 26 and 27 and 28, and it's going to go beyond St. Kitts and Nevis or the Caribbean. You know, we're trying to build these partnerships, build these collaborations, and make sure that people not only have the knowledge but also have the means to be able to forge these partnerships and these collaborations for sustainable development and economic growth.
Right, and you know, these are times where we see, you know, countries, you know, trying to market themselves to other countries, market passports at this time. But so what we're seeing with St. Kitts and Nigeria, who's marketing to who at this point?
This is a great question. You know, let me start by saying very often when we think about the Caribbean in general, not even just St. Kitts and Nevis, we think about two things. We think about passports and we think about holiday, right? But what we're trying to put out there, what we're trying to show is that there's so much more than passports and holiday. There's actual investment opportunities because of where St. Kitts is coming from, because of what they're trying to do, becoming a sustainable island state, having this 7-point agenda that they're pushing. There's so much to invest in tourism, in real estate, in agriculture, in the creative economy. There's just so much that can be taken advantage of, you know. So it's more than just a passport. It's more than just a holiday. It's actually connecting our regions and building these partnerships. And so where we are coming in and what we're saying is that we can make this a sustainable thing. It's not just a noun thing. What the game that we're playing is a very long-term goal, right? We're not going to be able to achieve it with one conversation or one trip. So that's why I also said earlier that we can't leave the conversation to governments. The private sector has a huge part to also play in advancing the objective of this transatlantic bridge, in pushing forward our message, in carrying the conversation, in carrying the burden of the implementation of these ideas that we conceptualize, you know. So it goes far beyond the basic things that we know, and we've actually started to have those conversations, started to implement some of these ideas and work towards the actual execution of the partnerships that were built or the MOUs that were signed, you know. And so that's sort of what we're trying to do. We don't want it to be just an idea. We don't want it to end with AACIS 25. We don't want it to end with St. Kitts and Nevis. We want to push it much wider than that and educate people and carry on the conversation that is more than just a passport.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Great work you're doing there. It was great having you and explaining all of this to us. That was Seruman Ugwas, the Chief of Staff at Aquarian Consult Limited. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.